Oh, yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
That will be the final score, 124 to 112. OKC an 18-5 run after the Warriors had not only scared them and given them all they wanted, but all hail the Thunder at 21-1. The win streak moves to 13 in a row.
Yeah, the Thunder wind up pulling it out. Warriors with a good run. Thunder win it, as you hear there on the final call, 124 to 112. The final inside Chase Center. We welcome you in here. It's Dubs OT with JD Late Night Edition here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. The number to give us a call or shoot us a text here. We've got Cole Lapelt in for Kyle Haar here tonight in the Daly City studios. Appreciate everybody popping in on YouTube and Twitch here as we get things rolling on this late night Tuesday night edition of Dubs OT, following a good fight for the Warriors, especially in the second half, especially when they learned that Jimmy Butler was going to be done for the night after battling through and playing through some injuries, various injuries, with limp there in the first half. He had been somebody that was on the injury report coming into this game, but an opportunity for the Warriors down the stretch to maybe steal one, maybe get one back, it felt like, but not to be, as Golden State does end up losing this one by that final of 124 to 112. So just kind of running through it. Warriors 11-11. The Thunder improved to 21-1 on the season. The Warriors wind up with overall a disappointing homestand as they go to 2-3 on the homestand. They lose to the Rockets and the Blazers and Oklahoma City. They do get wins against the Pelicans and the Jazz. And just kind of running through, I mean, not a lot of grandiose takeaways from this one. I do give the Warriors, who played the bulk of the second half, led really by the group of Pat Spencer, Seth Curry, Buddy Hield, Quentin Post. There was a little bit of Jonathan Kuminga mixed in the third quarter to lead the Warriors back from down 22. It looked like this night when Jimmy Butler went out and didn't come out to start the third quarter, it looked as if this was going to be a ho-hum, quiet, not a lot of fight, as expected, kind of a blowout game in favor of the Thunder. But that group that I mentioned really fought and brought energy in the third quarter. I mean, the Warriors just start whittling it down. Gary Payton II, also part of that. I mean, if I had to single out a group of 5 Warrior players tonight that really not only prevented this game from being a blowout when it looked like the 22-point lead was going to be insurmountable, but fought back to give the Warriors the lead and have an opportunity to win the game down the stretch, it's got to be GP2 with Seth Curry. And by the way, I think the biggest takeaway from tonight is Seth Curry looks ready to contribute. I'm still not sure how it's all going to look when the Warriors are closer to whole in terms of whose minutes Seth Curry is going to get. But I do think Seth Curry, in terms of just overall depth and having somebody that can step in and fill a little bit of a void, especially on nights where other players are out, I think that's where Seth really could fit in and be a positive force to help this team overall. And tonight's one of those nights where you go into it not having Steph Curry, and then you wind up with Jimmy Butler III unable to finish the game in this one. So GP2 with Seth, Pat Spencer, Buddy Hield, Kuminga, I think in the third quarter was involved in the mix there. And Brandon Podziemski kept the Warriors in the game through the first quarter, 9 first-quarter points along with Buddy Hield. He winds up being the Warriors' leading scorer along with Pat Spencer. They get 17 and 17 from the 2 primary point guards tonight. So basically 34 points from the position. And, Pat Spencer really, 17 to go with 6 assists and 3 rebounds. Pods, 17 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He ended up with 4 turnovers Warriors only turned it over 15 times. They wound up even in terms of the turnover battle. I guess if you factor in the one shot clock violation, it ended up 16 turnovers for Golden State. So they lost the turnover battle 16-15, and the Warriors continued to lose when they lose the game, or when they lose the turnover battle, they continue to lose the game overall, and that will wound up being the case tonight. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. The number if you want to jump in and join the conversation. On the phone lines, the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open as the Warriors will hit the road again, not really able to take advantage of this home stretch. And the Warriors also, for the first time, lose on a night, and for obvious reasons, but they lose on a night where they had more than one day of rest in between games. So this was the first time this season the Warriors had lost a game where they had more than one day of rest in the lead up to that game. And so they had won going all the way back to opening night, and they had won 4 other times between then and tonight with more than one day off, and they had a couple of days off since they last played on Saturday night. They won that game after a couple of days off before the game on Wednesday. So just a minor note there. Again, third quarter is where this thing turned back into a game that it looked like maybe the Warriors were going to give everybody a thrill and have a chance to win, as they wind up down 22. That was the largest lead for the Thunder, 69-47. They cut it down to 10. Draymond Green picks up his 5th foul, and that's when it was the group that was, Kuminga, Spencer. Kuminga had a big putback dunk. Pat Spencer was doing things. And Brandon Pajemski, a big 3 at the buzzer to close the third quarter. And it ended up being a 44-28 third quarter in favor of the Warriors, just kind of out of nowhere. It was their top scoring quarter of the entire season. And, a little bit of a let up maybe on the Oklahoma City side, but it was energy and it was ball movement, and it was maybe a little bit of a letdown by OKC and a group that kind of got things rolling there in the third quarter, and it carried into the fourth quarter with the Warriors trailing only by 3. Seth Curry, spectacular tonight. I think you could make a case, if there's anything to quibble about for the Warriors tonight, it's maybe not looking to get the ball a little bit more to the guys that had it cooking throughout the course of the game, whether it was Pat Spencer, who didn't finish the game. Pajemski went in and had a miss and a turnover down the stretch there. I think Pajemski in his 28 minutes coupled with Pat Spencer's 21, they basically split the game at the point guard spot. Spencer was gassed with 4 minutes to go. Kirk kind of let that group ride it out down the stretch there. And I was kind of wondering, was he going to set it up to close with Pat Spencer? But Pajemski had been scoring, and so he ended up closing with Pajemski. And it was a rough final couple of minutes for Pajemski after an overall, I think, pretty good game. Buddy Hield gave and Buddy Hield took away. He was hot early, but not hitting shots as frequently as the game went on. And I think, again, if there's something you could say, maybe looking to get the ball to Seth a little bit more, who seemingly had the hottest of hands, only took 7 shots, scored 14 points, knocked down 2 of 3 from 3. Again, I think the biggest takeaway from tonight overall is the fact that Seth Curry can potentially make an impact for the Warriors as a bench player, as a role player. Still not sure whose minutes exactly he's going to be taking at this point. But there are going to be, I think, as we've seen with the Warriors, minutes to be had as you look up and down the road here for the Warriors as they find themselves heading back on the road following this one. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Warriors lose 124-112. Our Dubs OT late night edition. Again, it is a pleasure as always to be back here at Harmonic. We were at Harmonic earlier in the afternoon before the Warriors took on the Oklahoma City Thunder, doing the Dirty Work show. Pleasure to sit in for Adam Copeland, with Derek Papa along the lines of that one. But again, would have been nice to try and steal this one. It looked like the Warriors had a shot to do it, but the Thunder are one of the best teams in the NBA at closing games out with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who had a number of big buckets. And I thought a light work 38 for SGA tonight. He missed 3 free throws, only shot 10 free throws. I say only. I mean, typically he can get into the teens and even up to 15, 16, but only hit 7 of the 10, but a casual 38, and he hit his 3-point shot tonight on a night where the Warriors ended up out hitting the Thunder from 3-point range in this game to ultimately prevail 124 to 112. Warriors hit 18 threes, and that was the big thing as the game went on and then in the second half that allowed for the Warriors to make the run to take the lead. Warriors a couple of different points in the fourth quarter, have the lead. Back and forth we go. Pat Spencer, multiple occasions, giving the Warriors the lead. SGA gave the Thunder, though, the lead for good at 108-107, and then the Thunder able to close it out. That tough sequence where Pods missed a shot, and then SGA hit a 3. There was another Pods turnover after he came back in with about 4 minutes to go there. Again, thought maybe Steve Kerr would set it up for Pat Spencer to finish the game, but he went back to Pods. I think he kind of got caught in the fact that Pat had a long run there. And I think when he took Pat out, he was gassed and needed a sub. And then it was so late in the game with 4 minutes to go, it's, how are you going to get him back in? And even if you were going to get him back in, the game was basically decided in the time that he was out. So that would be the one thing I would say. Maybe you finish with Pat. Maybe you just ride it out with that group. Maybe you wind up trying to get Seth Curry some shots. I know Draymond was taking a lot of threes down the stretch there. OKC, I agree, was attacking Buddy Hield. They were attacking Podziemski tonight, I thought. Defensively, but yeah, a nice casual 38 for SGA in this one, and the Warriors find themselves losing 124 to 112. All right, Cole Appelt in for Kyle Haar. Let's get right into the YouTube chat here tonight on Dubs OT. We'll go a little Cole's clicks, a little rapid fire here for the next 6-7 minutes. If you want to jump in and join the conversation, 808 KNBR. 415-808-5627. You're more than welcome to do so as the Warriors lose this one. Now dip to 11-11 on the season as they will hit the road and head for Philly and Cleveland and Chicago here the next 3. What do we got, Cole? Let's run right through them. San Jose Jazz fan 8. My grandiose takeaway is Pat Spencer. Yeah, Pat's an energy guy. I mean, he is. He could, again, Pat Spencer's not taking a lot of minutes on nights and where this team is whole. And I think, that's the, in a vacuum of one game where the Warriors are extremely shorthanded. And we've seen Pat Spencer do this on other occasions. Pat Spencer ain't afraid. Pat Spencer ain't afraid to attack. Pat Spencer ain't afraid to shoot. Pat Spencer's got a little confidence to him. Like, Pat Spencer wants the smoke. Pat Spencer believes that he is an NBA player and that he belongs on an NBA roster. And Pat Spencer, big time takeaway for the Warriors in this one. But again, is Pat Spencer a grandiose takeaway in the grand scheme of this Warriors team trying to work themselves back into being contender status? I think the answer to that question is no at this point. But again, tonight is not so much about the big picture as it is about, hey, the Warriors looked like they were going to get absolutely destroyed in the second half without Jimmy Butler, already not having Stephen Curry, and a group of energy guys allowed for the Warriors to come back and have a chance to win a game down the stretch. And so, Pat Spencer definitely gets a hat tip and a nod for the way that he played tonight. Moving forward here from San Jose Jazz fan 8, as we keep it moving, Bennett Roth. Should have never had Jackson Rowe on the roster to start the year. Could have had Seth on the roster from the jump. Well, Jackson Rowe was a two-way. Again, I don't think Seth Curry was taking a two-way deal. The money difference from a two-way deal to a veteran minimum deal for a player that has been in the NBA as long as Seth Curry has Seth was not going to take that. He would take the minimum contract for the prorated portion of the year that would allow him to fit under the salary cap, but he was not going to be signed to a two-way. So that's a little bit of apples and oranges there, Bennett, as it relates to that. Now, you could have made the case that Cryer could have been, and we talked about Cryer a lot a couple of different times in the last week here on Dubs OT. Guy who'd been killing it, 24 points per game and shooting over 40% in the G League. Get him up. He's a guard that can do some things and maybe defend a little bit. Just give yourself another option in terms of a guard that maybe can do some things. And so they made that move in addition to making the Seth Curry move. But Seth's getting a bona fide 15-man roster spot, NBA roster spot. So Jackson Rowe really didn't have anything to do with Seth Curry, but he did have something to do with LJ Cryer, and LJ Cryer was on the roster. Robert Brown, don't bleep with those Cougars, JD. They'll bite. Yeah, I liked LJ Cryer. We talked about it, and I know I hadn't been following LJ Cryer closely down in the G League, but a few people in the YouTube chat had, and we got the numbers confused the other night. I did. We had somebody say, JD, we're talking about his shooting percentage, and somebody said 24 points per game, and I mistook that for the 3-point percentage, which was over 40. He's averaging 24 points per game down there. So that's a move that when you look at moving on from Jackson Rowe, makes a lot of sense moving forward. Just give yourself more options. And again, I liked LJ Cryer's game at Houston. And I think LJ Cryer, as I said last week, has the potential to be an NBA player for years. I really do, as he gets an opportunity to start out. Moving forward, Rebel DeSounds. Seth and Spencer had more impact in one game than Pods and Kuminga have had all year. I'm going to slow my roll on that one. But Seth definitely had an impact. Pods has had some games where he's made an impact. Kuminga had 3 or 4 games at the very beginning of the year where he made a significant positive impact. Now, there haven't been many since the end of October, and part of that's been because Kuminga was out. It was not a good first half for Kuminga. I will say this, one other thing that did surprise me, that did surprise me was the fact that Kuminga didn't get any run in the fourth quarter. And I know there was a group that was kind of rolling. He was part of the energy group in the third quarter. He had a bad first half, but was part of that group in the third quarter that helped the Warriors get back in the game. I would have thought that Steve, again, maybe would have gone back to Kuminga down the stretch there. I think he wound up playing Draymond with the group that had played well with some of those other guys, and it wound up not being Kuminga's night in that form. But I don't know that I would go that far, Rebel. But Seth Curry and Pat Spencer definitely made an impact player. Made an impact on this game in a big-time way when the Warriors needed it. From Rebel, we move to, in the YouTube chat, Dr. P, our buddy Dr. P, not enough talent, not enough shooting, not enough size. This team will miss the playoffs. Trade half the roster or retire the core at the end of the season. Well, I don't think the core is going anywhere. And I don't think they're missing the playoffs unless there is some kind of significant injury relating to Steph Curry or Jimmy Butler. If you looked at the Western Conference standings, there's only 8 teams, I think, that are even above 500 or at 500 now that the Warriors dipped to 11 here through the first 22 games. I don't think that's something that they're in danger of at this point. But I will say they could have used a win tonight. And part of the reason they could have used the win tonight is the fact that it would have given them a little breathing room to 500 going on the road now. And look, if Steph Curry's not going to be coming back and playing in Philly on Thursday or Cleveland on Saturday or Chicago on Sunday, the Warriors stand to lose. Tonight's second half effort notwithstanding, the Warriors stand to lose potentially all 3 of those games. And now you're in that danger zone where you're potentially having to have a little mini winning streak just to get back to 500. And that's a position that you definitely don't want to be in. But as we start to get back to the big picture, Dr. P, I think this team definitely has to make some moves, as we talked about throughout a good chunk of the Dirty Work show with Derek Papa earlier. They're definitely going to have to make some moves at the deadline if they want to get to a point where they can be a playoff level contender. All right, let's take a quick timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll pause here from Harmonic in Thrive City. Thunder beat the Warriors 124-112. We'll keep things moving. More from the YouTube chat. If you want to jump in on the phones, we can do that as well. 808 KNBR. It's Dubs OT with JD. Late night edition here on the Sports Leader.
live from downtown.
Hurry, way downtown.
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader, streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
That's Spencer, little floater, bring it out, Chris Post with the rebound. But he thought about that three. That's Spencer, corner three.
Beating his chest, screaming. Dub Nation's talking to him. Pat Spencer said bone-crushing screen there.
Yep. Pat Spencer setting screens. Pat Spencer hitting pull-up jumpers in the lane. Pat Spencer kind of doing it all tonight for the Warriors to the tune of 17 points. Not enough, though, as the Warriors wind up losing this one to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 124-112. They played without Steph Curry and without Jimmy Butler. No Jimmy Butler in the second half of the game. As the Warriors come up short after falling behind by 22. They come back. They had the lead on a few different occasions. GP2 gave the Dubs a lead, 98-97 in the fourth. Pat Spencer with a couple of those jumpers gave the Warriors 1 point leads. But after the Warriors led 107-106, it was the Thunder from there, 18-5. OKC to close it out. A lot of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a little bit of Jalen Williams, and a whole lot of Chet Holmgren throughout the course of the evening as he ended up with 21 points, 8 boards, and 3 assists. 808 KNBR, 415-885-627. Let's get to the phones. More of the YouTube chat coming up. But right now it's Eric in San Francisco on the Sports Leader. Hey, Eric.
Hey, JD. So, okay, I know this sounds absolutely insane as a trade proposal, but watching these last few games with Steph on the shelf and a need for offense, and the dude never gets hurt. He's been a good soldier in LA. He could be the ball distributor. You could always have either Steph or James Harden on the floor at all times. You give them Kuminga, Hield, if you have to throw in pods. I'm not really particularly wedded to pods. It gives them some young pieces. And, Harden doesn't sound too happy with the way things are going with the Clippers, and they need to shake up anyways. I mean, it sounds crazy, but at least that gives us a second unit offense. I mean, the dude's still playing at a high level, and he never, ever gets hurt. So he's going to, we know his playoff problems, but, if you might as well, you're in for a pound, with the old guys, so you might as well just double down and then just reset in the 27 season. I know it sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But
well, it is in a sense, but it's not in another sense. I mean, and you'd have to send out a lot of salary, obviously, to go get somebody like James Harden. But I look, they're not going to do that. They've never been a fan of his game. I don't think what's the actual proposal? Who are you sending out? I'm gonna humor you for a second here, but who are you actually sending out to try to make this trade happen?
He's not on a max, so we wouldn't have to send out any of the big three. So it would be some combination of Kuminga, Hield, probably Pods. I don't know what other filler you would need, and then you stick Moody in, and he into the starting lineup. And Harden's always worked well when spacing's been around him, and he can pass the ball.
Yeah.
So
39.1 million this year, 42.3 million next year. That's interesting. I know the Warriors organization is never been enamored with the style of play, and he is 36 years old. But I mean, that's interesting. If you truly are looking to go all in now. Go ahead.
I told you it was I told you it was something that I was just like watching the Pelicans game. I was like, okay, we need a secondary scorer, someone who can always play and has played well with a 5-out style because the Houston Rocket years. So I'm the Clippers are going nowhere. Right now, the Warriors are going nowhere. I'm looking at the trade market. I don't know who else that we could get, and it clears all the money off the books except for Moody's salary in 27. So if it doesn't work, maybe you hope for some good lottery luck so that you have some building blocks, and then starting in 27, you go out and you try and bring in some free agents.
Yeah. They may wind up in that position, and thanks for the call anyway. So to that point, I mean, it does fit the timeline in terms of he's got 2 years left on the deal. The rest of this year, 39.1, and then 42.3 next year. And, you know, you wouldn't you'd hope that in that type of situation, you wouldn't be giving up any kind of draft capital or anything like that. To bring in Hart. Again, it's never been a fit. He's never been a guy that the Warriors have loved, his playing style. I do think when you're a willing passer, as Harden is, you can play with anybody. That one is not one that I've given a lot of thought to. I don't know that I would give another too much thought to it moving forward here, but that's intriguing if you look at the Warriors, because the big thing for the Warriors' reluctance, and I think they need somebody younger, even if it's somebody that's more of a role player that's younger. But when you look at the Warriors' reluctance to make another trade, it's been as much about the unwillingness to give up draft picks for said trade in addition to the players that would go to whatever team. So that's been, a big part of it. And so we'll see. But yeah, that one intrigues me. Although as Ian J says, Steph ain't signing off on Harden, and yeah, that's a good point. I mean, and everybody would have to sign off on Harden to bring him over to the Warriors. And I'll be honest, he probably is Steve Kerr's least favorite superstar player of this century. If you want to go back all the way to 2000. But definitely the era in which Steve Kerr's been the head coach of the Warriors, James Harden is probably his least favorite superstar player. So, yeah, you'd have to factor that in as well. But, again, as long as there wouldn't be any draft capital changing hands, maybe not. And I know a few in the chat are saying, yeah, there's a lot of dancing clubs, shall we say, in the city that James Harden could come and have a good time at. But that's interesting. That's an interesting one. It's off the board. It's outside the box, but not insane in terms of you might give up a young player or two, but you don't necessarily believe that any of the young players you currently have are going to be a part of some core, and you potentially could protect your draft capital moving forward. I would not give any draft pick to the Clippers in any kind of deal like that. So 808 KNBR, something to think about for Dubs OT late night edition here on the Sports Leader. Warriors lose to the Thunder 124-112. Let's get back to some more Cole's clicks here. Cole LaPelt in our Daly City studios, sitting in tonight and sitting in all week long for the great Kyle Haar, who is probably on the beach somewhere. I guess not, because it's in the evening. He's probably having a nice dinner overlooking the beach somewhere in Honolulu right now. So we love Cole, and Cole will be back with us coming up next week. LM didn't see the first half, but doesn't look like Moody was very good from the box score. Yeah, not a real good Moses Moody night, not a real impactful Will Richard night. Again, Jimmy Butler played the first half, got banged up, and ended up not playing at all in the second half. Kuminga gave some energy in the third quarter, but otherwise wasn't great. Part of that group that helped the Warriors get back in the game, though, was Jonathan Kuminga. He ended up being a net +3 for the game. Buddy Hield had 9 early and really struggled after the early part of the game. And the spark plugs for the Warriors in this one were Pat Spencer, Gary Payton II, Brandon Pajemski in the first half, Quentin Post as well. Those were the guys who really provided the spark for the Warriors in this game. But yeah, another one of these games where you're kind of hoping Moses Moody can step up and be a little bit more of a consistent scorer, and Moody was just unable to be that consistent scorer for the Warriors in this one. And it led Steve Kerr to basically play the energy guys that were getting them back into the game And, Seth Curry as well. I should not, we spent the whole first segment talking about Seth, but yes, Seth Curry along with Spencer, the stars of this one, to get the Warriors back and have a fighting chance in the final 6 to 8 minutes of this one before Oklahoma City ultimately prevails. Good one from LM. Let's move forward with another here. RIP Cougar. Exactly why did we sign Al Horford? I would rather kept Loondog. If Al's going to miss half the games, at least Kevon was available. Two different types of player. They wanted a veteran, experienced player that could shoot from the outside and that they could run some offense through, I think, in similar ways to that of the way they run the offense through Draymond Green. And Horford, to this point, has helped the Warriors in, 2 or 3 games? I feel like he's helped them in 2 or 3 games. He's been pretty bad in a handful of games, 5 or 6 games. He's missed some games because he doesn't play back-to-backs. And then now he's found himself on the shelf with sciatica. And, to this point, it doesn't look like a great signing to bring Al Horford into the mix here. It's just, to this point, I would say overall it has not worked out to bring Al Horford in, and it's going to be a move that they're going to have to get Al right and able to play half the season and be able to contribute, or they're going to have to continue to look to maybe add another big that can do some of the things that Horford can do. Looney, obviously a much different player, but the kind of player that that the Warriors loved, rebounder, a defender, incredible locker room guy. He also got $8 million for this season, which was probably 2.5 times what the Warriors could have conceivably offered him in an attempt to try and keep their cap in order to a point to where they could make some other moves at different points in the season to look to add. So I think once the Pelicans were willing to pay Kevon Looney what they were willing to pay Kevon Looney, it became a relatively easy decision. I think the Warriors were happy for Kevon to be able to move on and happy for Kevon to be able to get that payday and continue his NBA career. All right, 808 KNBR. Let's get Jared in Santa Barbara next here on Dubs OT on the phone lines on the Sports Leader. What's going on tonight, Jared?
Hey, JD. Going well. I hope you're doing well. Love the show. Just had one thing that I wanted to get your thoughts on. Curious to see why Kerr decided to go with Buddy down the stretch. He played 9 minutes in the fourth quarter. I think he was a -10, a donut in the box score. Instead of obviously rolling with the hot hands, we had Spencer and Odds as well, I think came back in later. But, yeah, curious to see what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah, it was interesting. He was, Buddy was out there with the group that got back into the game. And so I think he went back to him to get Seth Curry a rest in the early part, around the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter. And then he brought Seth back in, but he brought Seth back in for Will Richard. It was kind of an unassuming Will Richard game tonight, and he was really riding GP2 out. I think he got caught with Spencer's second half, and Pajemski had a decent first half and kind of what to do there. I think he rode the guys that were playing well to a point where he had to get some rest mixed in, and I think it really jumbled up any semblance of a rotation. It felt to me that Kerr was almost just kind of the hunt and peck rotation, right? Like, hey, I'm going to go to these guys. They're playing well. I'm going to stick with them. Now I got to get some rest. I'm going to take this guy out. We'll put this guy in. And I just think he was kind of left with, do you want to have a second shooter out there to try and spread the floor and make the Thunder account for that extra shooter? Or do you want to go with maybe more of a two-way type, Will Richard type? It really, to me, would have been Will Richard or maybe, I guess, Moody, although Moody did not play well in this game tonight, only 15 minutes. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander went by him a couple of times in this one. Maybe it could have gone back to Moody, or Will Richard. So, yeah, I think that was a little curious. There were a few curious moves tonight, I thought, when the rotation got completely out of whack with no Jimmy and no Steph, and you're playing the energy group that gets you back in. And I thought Kerr boxed himself in a little bit in this one, and found himself, are you going to play Pods and Spencer? No, you choose Pods. Are you going to play, Seth with another wing, but no other wing was playing well? At least Buddy had scored, even though he didn't do it efficiently. So one of those things, I think, tonight. But it was not Buddy's best game for sure after the first quarter, where he did have 9 points and helped the Warriors at that point.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it seems
Thanks
like
for the call.
he kind of had
go ahead.
cobble. Yeah, it seemed like he was stuck. Yeah, with Buddy down the stretch, and I mean, Shea was just frying him. I mean, he did the too small off of a midi, and I mean, it was just a bad look. So he's setting up to fail for sure. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see maybe JK get some blow down the stretch, Moody, at least some guys that can, maybe put a body on Shea, especially, I mean, after seeing Buddy just get scored on, possession after possession. But yeah, I mean, Kurt was kind of boxed in, like you said. So, I mean, it makes sense that, he didn't really have anyone to go to.
Yeah, no doubt. And you're right to the point on the defense. They went at him. And they went at Pods earlier in the game too. So, I mean, that definitely was part of it. But again, I don't, what was the better option at that point? I'm not sure. I mean, maybe Will Richard or Moody. You could have gone back to Moody at that. You could have gone to Kuminga and played maybe a little bit bigger. Like I said, I was surprised. I don't think Kuminga played particularly well in the first half. He was part of the group that helped him get back in the game in the third quarter. I was surprised Kuminga didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. But again, Steve thought there were other options available. This is kind of, and thanks for the call. Appreciate it. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. This is not the game where I really look at, in a lot of great depth, because everything was so out of whack in terms of having any kind of rotation. You had so many players that don't typically play a lot of minutes or hadn't played at all in Seth Curry's case. Playing, it was the kind of thing for me where, tonight's not the game where I'm just going to, pound the table and say, damn it, Steve, messed up the rotation and it should have been this guy and it shouldn't have been that guy. Yeah, you want to say he left Buddy in too long or could have gone away from Buddy? I got no problem with that. They did hunt him, as people are mentioning in the chat. Like, I've got no issue with that. But anytime you're going to choose somebody to take out, unless there is a no-brainer option to put back in, especially on a night like tonight, I could, I don't think it's some, egregious error that cost the team a game, especially when you're going up against a team as talented and as quality as Oklahoma City. So, all right, let's get a couple of more chats here. 808 KNBR, if you want to jump in on the phone lines. We'll get our sounds at Dubs OT. Robert Brown, SGA step back is filthier than the streets of Oakland. He can get to that step back anytime he wants, and it's just a matter of, is the shot going to go in or not? He can get fouled on it. He baits the defenders into fouling him on it and gets to the line. I thought the Warriors actually did a pretty good job not fouling him tonight compared to maybe some other games that he's been able to really live at the free throw line against him. But yeah, SGA can get to that anytime he wants. And he did in this game tonight, and did a couple of times down the stretch in this game tonight as well. But a good comment there from Robert. From Robert, we move to Daryl Lightfoot. JD, Kerr's minutes for Seth tonight was nasty work. He hit 2 shots and immediately sat for 10 minutes like he does Richard. He has no feel for in-game situations. Well, again, if a guy's been out there for 6 minutes and he hits a couple of shots and it's almost time for his regular rotation to come out and get his regular, then a guy's going to come out, even if he hits a couple of shots. Seth Curry also hadn't played in an NBA game since the spring. And so I'm not sure in terms of his conditioning, how much more he could have gone. I do think it could have been more than 18 minutes tonight for Seth Curry. I think you probably could have pushed him up to 25. So especially when he was hot. So I got no problem with that. I mean, I think that could be one that, again, if we really want to have the complaints in terms of the rotation, we can do it. But yeah, just because you hit a couple of shots when you've been on the floor for 4 or 5 minutes doesn't mean that you're going to automatically stay in the game longer. Sometimes you'll do that, but you also want to make sure guys are getting, appropriate rest to be able to come back and finish the game. But I get it. That's something that, it is a balance, and a lot of people get frustrated with the fact that, sometimes guys will hit shots, but it's their normal sub, and he'll keep the rotation going to be able to, get everybody in on their normal plan and keep everybody rested on the normal plan. I don't think it's no feel for game situations, but it's just because you hit a couple of shots doesn't mean you're automatically going to be staying in the game. But point noted to Daryl here in the YouTube chat. All right, let's get another one. Cole, what do we got? Max Lopez, they should have just played Draymond matched up against SGA from the jump. That was the best chance of stopping him. Sad that Draymond is probably the best perimeter defender on the team. And that's a way to get Draymond absolutely worn down and or broken. I mean, worn down and or injured and or broken. So you can't really look to do that. But, yeah, it is telling. I know Moses Moody gets a lot of credit for his defense. At times, Kuminga as a point of attack, it can be used, I think, as a weapon. But Moses Moody is not a great point of attack defender against quick and skilled guards. He's better against the slower, more plodding guards. And so, again, is point of attack defense the primary issue for the Warriors? No. Is it one of many issues that this team currently has, in addition to playmaking and shooting and offense and guys that can create for themselves? Yes, it's definitely among the list. Let's move on from Max to Jerron Hopkins. Appreciate you. Steve Kerr and 10 guards on the roster is a recipe for disaster. Yeah, I'm not sure how all these guys are going to play, and I don't think all of them are going to play when we get closer. With Seth now and Pa, they're going to have to make a trade at some point. Maybe Seth just winds up playing instead of Buddy. Offensively, Seth is more dynamic than Buddy. He can create a little bit more off the dribble than Buddy Hield, who's basically just catch and shoot. So maybe they make a trade involving Buddy, and Seth can take some of Buddy's minutes. But they're going to have to do some kind of condensing trade to be able to get the rotation in order. And they still, I think, are a wing short that's not currently on the roster. So I'm kind of with you. It's a lot of guards, although, again, tonight you're just trying to play your best players that are giving you a chance to win and helping you compete. And, look, none of it was good in the first half. So, again, I'm willing to, and I think all the criticisms that have been brought up are fair. It's not like I'm caping for Steve, as some people in the chat are suggesting. I just think that, when a game gets as out of whack as this game does, when you have none of your top two players playing, I'm a little more willing to give the benefit of the doubt on, damn it, should have been this guy and should have not been that guy. And, again, we're talking about the difference between Seth Curry and Buddy Hield and Pat Spencer and Brandon Pajemski. Like, it's not as clear cut as I think sometimes we make it out to be in those situations. All right, let's go ahead and pause here. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and yes, we are going to hear from Steve Kerr post-game as the Warriors lose this one to the OKC Thunder, 124-112. Our Sounds of Dubs OTs coming up next, and more from the YouTube chat. Keep them coming. It's the best YouTube chat in sports. We appreciate you here as the Warriors lose tonight. We're at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. 808 KNBR, if you want to still jump in on the phone lines, we can do that. Appreciate everybody watching and listening. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
All right, rolling along here. Sounds of Dubs OT coming up in just a second. Back at Harmonic Brewing, Warriors lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 124-112. The final. Warriors rallied from 22 down in the second half to take a 1-point lead on a couple of different occasions, but the Thunder close it on an 18-5 run to prevail in this one over the Warriors. I thought tonight could be a night where Jonathan Kuminga or his agent would have something to say about Kuminga not playing in the fourth quarter. And I mentioned it earlier in the show that it did surprise me that Kuminga did not play in the fourth quarter. He was, from an energy standpoint, a part of the group that helped the Warriors get back into the game. We talked about that even in the first segment. But Aaron Turner, with a couple, one a retweet of a tweet on JK and another comment on social media regarding where just the end of the game and Kuminga, you would suspect, though we don't know for sure, a comment about Kuminga not playing a single second in the fourth quarter of this loss. So not surprised that tonight is a night where that would happen. I was mentioning it to our friend Austin Scott on the digital side. I said, watch tonight be the night while everybody's in the press conference room going over the Seth Curry show that Kuminga is maybe making a comment or two to a Marcus Thompson or an Anthony Slater or a Tim Kawakami. So we shall see. Again, 44 days until January 15th for the Warriors and when Jonathan Kuminga would be eligible to be traded. All right, let's get Fozzie in the East Bay coming up here. We'll get you the reset on what Aaron Turner had to say as well after that, and then our Sounds of Dubs OT before we wrap things up on this Tuesday night. What's going on, Fozzie?
Yeah, JD, my bro, thanks for taking my call. Great game today, man. I really like what the guys are doing for the Dubs today. Big games from Buddy Hield and GP2. And I really liked how Steve Kerr was using Seth. I think Seth Curry is going to open up the floor for us. He another knockdown shooter, had a great game. One thing that I didn't like, though, and this, I don't know if it's Steve Kerr making this decision, but you don't take Pat Spencer out at the game there and put in Pods. Pat was on an absolute heater. He takes him out, subs him out, puts in Pods, and Pods comes in, turns the ball over, and I think commits a foul. And I think that's where we lost the game there. But, I love the game. We gave the champs a run for their money. But looking forward to the next few games and then getting these guys some rest for when Steph comes back. Cheers, JD.
Yeah, appreciate it, Fozzie. I would quibble with the great game for Buddy Hield. It was a great first quarter for Buddy Hield. 9 points in the first quarter. He ends up with 13. He's a minus. We talked about the defense. Buddy, again, you choose to go with a second shooter along with Seth down the stretch to try and allow the Thunder to not clamp down. But the flip side to that is that you don't have enough good defenders on the other side, and the Thunder can get buckets the other way, and they were able to do that enough down the stretch ultimately to prevail. So again, it's kind of a pick your poison. As for Spencer, we talked about it. I think Spencer was gassed and needed a little bit of a rest, but nobody's going to question it if you ride him out in the final 4 minutes, given the way that he helped spark the team, and he winds up maybe not making a play or two because he's tired. And already maligned Brandon Podziemski. And look, Podziemski did not have a terrible game. He had a terrible stretch after Pat Spencer came out, and he went back into the game with about 4 minutes to go. Missed a shot, had the turnover that Fozzie mentioned, alluded to. But the reality is, the reality is it's a situation where if you ride with Pat Spencer and a tired Pat Spencer makes the mistakes, nobody's questioning what Steve Kerr was looking to do there at the end. When you bring a more maligned player, at least in terms of the fan base, back in, and that player makes a mistake, then you open yourself up to criticism. But again, Steve Kerr isn't concerned about what I'm saying on this show or what Warrior fans are saying at our YouTube chat or calling in at 808 KNBR. So it's all relative, but again, I probably would have rode with Pat Spencer down the stretch there in the final couple of minutes, but he had 17, Podziemski had 17, Spencer though more of a spark. And again, I do think Spencer was tired. So do you give him a minute plus a timeout, and then you go back to him? I think that's another potential option that they could have wound up looking at that they didn't down the stretch there. All right, let's continue on here with our Sounds of Dubs OT. Cole, we'll run through these. We'll hear 3 from Steve Kerr, and then a couple, one from Pat Spencer and one from Seth Curry, as the Warriors lose this one to the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right, let's get the first one from Steve Kerr. Steve talking about the second half comeback and how the Warriors played in the fourth quarter. And a lot of it had to do with the pace, talking about the third quarter and the big comeback.
The energy, the competitive spirit was right. It wasn't right in the first half. I think we had an attitude adjustment of, getting into the fight, and then both BP and Pat just, playing the high pick and roll games. We had the floor spaced, and we forced some turnovers. It was a fantastic quarter, and I think it showed, that we can play with that kind of pace and energy and take care of the ball, and that's what it has to look like more often. And I'm confident that it will.
So there you go. You look at the pace, and you gotta believe, and sometimes it takes having already Steph out, and then Jimmy goes down, and it takes at that point just let it all hang out type of mentality, when you get down by 22. And I thought the Warriors this was the kind of game where they had to bottom out before they really could get into the fight, and they bottomed out at 69-47, and then they let it hang and were able to play at a much faster pace and defend and all of that. So, that's a 44-point quarter at a 44-point quarter without Jimmy Butler and without Steph Curry. Impressive stuff. But again, some questionable potential decisions in the fourth quarter as it relates to who ultimately finished the game. All right, let's hear Steve Kerr on Seth Curry making his first appearance as a member of the Golden State Warriors here in 2025. Steve on Seth making an immediate impact on a night where the Warriors were shorthanded.
He comes from the greatest shooting family in the history of basketball. So, he's a pro. The guy's been around for a long time, and he's helped win a lot of games for a lot of teams. And he kept himself ready, and he just knows how to play. He's in the right place at the right time. He doesn't turn it over. He's a good passer, and he fights defensively. It's great to have him.
And again, it's going to come down to how much is he going to be used, and in what ways does he get used when this team is closer to whole? Because Steph's going to be out there, probably at least at this point, with a lot of Moody, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Quentin Post, or it's going to be Podziemski out there with Steph. And then, is Seth going to go into the Buddy spot? I know he talked a lot about the Pat Spencer, Buddy Hield, Seth trio as we played in that first clip, and Pat's ability to kind of run pick and roll. And then you've got a couple of shooters out there as well. And so it can make your offense a little bit more dynamic, even when you're a little bit shorthanded. But I think the key question on Seth Curry is going to be, how does Seth Curry, how many minutes does he get? Because he got 18 minutes tonight and probably should have had 23 to 25, but that's with the Warriors extremely shorthanded. How does he contribute in the grand scheme of this team when they're closer to whole and trying to become at least what I would call a regular season contender? I think that remains to be seen. And whose minutes is Seth Curry going to take? Is it going to be Buddy? Is it going to be Pods? We know Melton's going to be coming back as well. Again, I think, does Seth fit into this extra guy that's going to play a lot on nights where they're shorthanded, or is he going to be somebody that you feel like you're going to have out there on a night in, night out basis? The one thing I do like about Seth over Buddy is the fact that Seth is better with the ball in his hands. Like Seth can put it on the floor, a couple of dribbles, hit a pull-up. Buddy, you basically only want shooting a spot up three, or maybe taking one dribble and shooting if somebody's going to kind of close out to him, a little side dribble if somebody's going to be closing out to him. Seth, you're a little bit more comfortable. I don't want to say as a creator, but he's got a little bit more to his game off the dribble in terms of ball handling than Buddy has, which is not very much at all. All right, let's hear another from Steve Kerr, a third Steve Kerr clip here. Sounds at Dubs OT. More on Pat Spencer and the second half and the group that the group that he chose to close out the game that couldn't quite finish it.
Pat's pick and roll game was incredible tonight. And, second half, we played faster. We were able to spread the floor and just get into a lot of high ball screens. And, Pat was getting downhill, getting into the paint. And when he wasn't, making his mid-range shot, he was moving the ball along. And once you get a paint touch like that, the defense has to react. And as I said, I thought BP did the same thing. Both guys really played great games and created a lot for others. And obviously we played faster in the second half, spread the floor more, and got a good rhythm going. Just couldn't close the game.
All right, so Brandon Pajemski, again, he thought Pajemski did a lot of the things Pat did, which he did. Again, got picked on defensively also as well. Again, Brandon, I know fans are in a bad spot right now with Pajemski, and look, Pat Spencer was a spark plug tonight, but I think, Steve Kerr objectively, he said, hey, Brandon Pajemski played as well as Pat Spencer tonight. I mean, that's the answer. That's what I read in terms of Pajemski was the starter. Pajemski's played more in the NBA, and Pajemski was doing a lot of the things Pat did. Pat was tired with 4 minutes to go, so he went back to his starter at that point to close the game after the bench player gave him a really good run. Again, that's my read on at least what the explanation is. You can not like it. You can say it was the wrong decision. All of those things, I think, tonight are without a doubt fair game here in the aftermath of a Warriors loss. All right, let's hear from Pat Spencer himself as Pat talked about what Steve Kerr was just getting into and the pace of the second half increasing and helping the Warriors get back into the game.
Yeah, I think we picked up our pace against a team like that. If you let them get set in the half-court defense, you've got 5 guys almost at all times that are out there that can defend. And so for us, it was about getting a little bit more organized offensively, but ultimately pushing the pace and not relying on really a first action to get us a bucket. That's a defense you've got to move side to side at least 2 times to be able to attack the paint. They're long. They swarm the paint when you get in there. And so for us, we've got to really commit to moving the ball side to side and just trusting each other.
And I thought they did that in the second half. Again, it was a less talented squad, but the ball movement was so good off the pick and roll that they were getting easy buckets against a quality Oklahoma City defense without your top 2 offensive players on the floor. And, it really is a nod to the ball movement being the way that you beat an excellent defense, even with maybe some lesser talented players on the court. All right, let's hear from Seth Curry in his return to NBA action as he joins the Golden State Warriors. What did it feel like being able to help key a big comeback, and just what did it feel like to be back on an NBA floor for the first time in many, many months?
It felt normal, felt natural. I was a little worried and nervous. I didn't know how it would feel when I got out there. Just like I said, it ain't probably been 7-8 months since I played a game. But like I said, once I got up and down a couple of times, it was basketball, and I mean nothing new. Team, we found a way to play offensively that will help everybody out. And especially without Jimmy out there, we figured some stuff out to get some good offense, some good shots, and we just couldn't close it out tonight.
Yeah, not enough down the stretch, but again, I think Seth Curry, probably my biggest takeaway from this game is he can have an impact. And I'm curious to see, again, how he's going to wind up being used. All right, before we get to the fun with numbers to close it out, we're going to do more Cole's clicks. I also want to reference Aaron Turner, the agent for Jonathan Kuminga, and keep everybody up to speed on that. So Aaron Turner, a couple of things that are kind of making the rounds here tonight as Kuminga, a part of, and we talked about it, the group that helped the Warriors get back in the game, didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. And Aaron Turner, in the aftermath of the game, so this is at 10:36, he puts out on social media, what are we doing out here with the palm to the face palm emoji in terms of, I would think, relating to Kuminga not playing at all in the fourth quarter after helping them get back into the game in the third quarter. And then also going back to, he also retweeted someone who said JK was a huge part of that comeback. Kerr rewards him with a fourth quarter benching and a face palm there, and a retweet from Aaron Turner. So we'll see. I think more is going to come. He has not been shy when he's felt his client has been mishandled by the Warriors. And so I think tonight, again, anytime you lose, I don't think JK was great tonight by any means, especially in the first half of the game. He helped them in the third quarter. You could make a case he earned a right to play a little bit in the fourth quarter. I think given the history with Kuminga, I think given where things stand with the trade time upcoming on January 15th where they can potentially look to make a move. And to me, Kuminga's trying to say, what can I do? What can I do to be able to earn some time and be able to fit in here? And so I would imagine that there's going to be some conversations between player and agent, and I wouldn't be surprised if some more things leak here. Not a good night on that front, potentially. How are the Warriors going to be able to kind of calm all this down? And so, yeah, I kind of thought too, Ian, I'm seeing in the chat, I thought JK's knees were sore. Yeah, he has not looked as explosive or willing to attack the basket. But again, I'll be honest, I can understand, right or wrong, I can understand where Jonathan Kuminga would be a little ticked off tonight that he didn't, Steph's out, Jimmy's out, and you're not among, the top 5-6 players on the team to be able to play in a fourth quarter of a game when you help the team go from 22 down to make it a close game in that fourth quarter. So one of the many things that I think are going to be a talking point here the next couple of days as the Warriors get ready to hit the road again. All right, Cole, let's get to it here. We'll go rapid fire. You tell me, brother, what time do we have to be out? I know we got to play some spots before the top of the midnight hour. We got to get out in front of that. So we've got, another 3-4 minutes maybe?
Yeah, we're good with that. Maybe just a couple more clicks and then the comment of the night.
All right, yeah, let's do a couple Cole's clicks, and we'll get our comment of the night here. Let's run the three real quick. Plus one. Ian J, I'm sure the Curry brothers got a little chemistry on the court. Draymond out there, quarterback in the team, is far from cooked, but we need a little more. Yeah, they got to make a move. They're going to have to make a move. We knew that before tonight. We know that after tonight. But again, it just becomes a point of, at what time do you move forward? In terms of when you can actually make the move, and we're still six weeks away at this point. Let's get another one here. Cole, Andis Brown. Buddy always teases by hitting that first three, and then he blanks the rest of the game. It was ugly for Buddy. He was hot early and then just didn't have it at all down the stretch in this one. As he ended up, I was looking at the numbers. What was he to start the game? He was 2 for 2 in the first quarter, 0 for 7 for the rest of the game. So to that point there, let's get one more before, and then we got a little breaking news. Robert Brown, JD, do you think it's less likely or more likely they'll make a trade compared to last year with the Butler deal? I think they're making a trade. They're making a trade. Like, Kuminga is going to be traded, and potentially others are going to be traded. They are making a trade. By the way, Chris Haynes reporting here tonight, the longtime NBA reporter, that the Clippers are sending Chris Paul home. The Clippers are moving. Chris Paul announced he's going to be retiring at the season's end. And according to Chris Haynes, the Clippers are sending Chris Paul home. The Clippers off to a horrible start to the season, and I don't know if that they're cutting him or he's going to be on the roster but not a part of the team. Stay tuned for more on that, but a little bit of breaking news there to close out the show here on Dubs OT on the Sports Leader. Let's get our comment of the night, Cole.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
All right, JC Mack, takeaway is no matter how good you're playing, Steve will take you out in favor of Pods, Buddy, and GP2. Well, GP2 earned it. GP2 earned it. I don't think Pods was terrible tonight, and Buddy is the one that I think that probably shouldn't have been out on the court as we flesh through it here. But, again, fair comments all the way around. All right, let's get to fun with numbers, and then we will call it a night here.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, very quick here. Warriors 2-3 on the homestand. They're 7-3 at home, 4-8 on the road. They're back on the road for the next 3. Now 4-5 in clutch games. They did have their best quarter of the season, or at least equaled it, with 44 points in the third. Pat Spencer, team high tying 17 along with Pajemski. He also had a career high tying 17 points in this one. And Seth Curry, Warriors debut, 14 points off the bench. All right, that's going to do it for us. Big thanks to everybody in the YouTube chat. We got to skedaddle to get to the midnight hour here for Cole Lepelt and for Kyle Haar, Jordan Pratari, Overnight Dave, everybody who called and listened. We will talk to you Thursday after the Dubs take on the Philadelphia 76ers. Warriors lose this one, 124-112. And we're talking about it as we do each and every night right here on the Sports Leader. John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no!